Nice. Okay, I'm not going to wait any longer. Let's go. So we have library people, we have long-term care people, we have community-based people. This is very good. So Reading2Connect has several programs, and they're programs that are designed for different settings, whether it's long-term care, libraries, adult day centers, universities, care partners who are living at home, etc. And the Reading2Connect program has three elements that are in all the programs, and that is training, age and dementia-friendly booklets, and supporting materials like book stands and reading screens, ebooks, video books, etc. And you're going to get this in summary after the meeting. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just share a little glimpse of one of our books. Like I said, these are age and dementia friendly booklets. That means they are constructed and designed to be highly readable to individuals who are usually older adults or young people living with dementia who can find it very taxing to read typical newspapers and magazines and books. Like I said, we have books in three forms. So we have books as paper books, which you get with the program. So they're physical books. The books are spiral bound, which I know is hard for libraries. It's not a typical library book. And we did that because after a lot of research with different bindings, we found that was the type of binding that this readership really likes. They can, it lays flat, they can fold it on itself and just look at one page at a time. They seem very comfortable and less distracted by these spiral binding booklets. But so what we did to make them durable as possible is we print them on washable tear-resistant paper. So it's nice because it's like paper that they use in naval ships and submarines. So you could spill coffee on it, you can wipe it off, you can disinfect it, and it's very hard to damage. However, Reading2Connect has a policy. If a book is damaged for any reason, we replace it at no cost. The second form of books is ebooks, which you see right here. And we're going to look at this in a minute. And these you can put obviously on tablets or desktops or large screens. We also provide video books, and those are basically these ebooks, but somebody is reading aloud the book in a video and turning the pages and describing the pictures and so forth. These video books have turned out to be really a nice resource for people who have lived with dementia for a long time. There's something about maybe the headphones, and they're seeing this very salient, image and text on a screen, and hearing somebody read aloud to them using good dementia communication strategies. And the video books also serve, obviously, as audiobooks for people with low vision. So this is kind of what most of our books look like. This isn't a formula, but again, years of watching people, in long-term care living with dementia read or try to read, a lot of trial and error, and we're still evolving. We're still figuring out what can we do to enable people to really experience text and images on print on their own without needing somebody to guide them. So generally, in most of our books, we have text on one page, a banner, and then an image. Again, it's not a formula, but this is a kind of a format that we found works well. All the three elements all relate to the same thing. You can see that a very spacious graphic layout. We separate the sentences, and that was a great discovery because we discovered that they're experienced readers. They know when they see space to pause. And so what happens is a lot of our readership will read the sentence and they'll pause, and you'll see their eye gaze maybe go to the picture and then maybe back here and then back to this sentence, and maybe even reread the sentence before they go on to the other. Sometimes they'll read the sentence, pause, and then what we like best of all is comment or share. So the format of these books stimulates or fosters a contemplative read, a slow contemplative read, and also a read that encourages personal expression and reaction. Usually in the book, there's kind of sensory things, sort of fun, pleasant, kind of happy content. You'll notice that sometimes we break up the sentences. We call that phrasing. And so we'll take the sentence and chunk it, sort of chunk the elements of the sentence. If you think about people living with dementia, even if their reading ability is still somewhat intact, which for many people living with dementia, it's stored in the procedural memory. But what happens is that because whatever form of dementia is they're experiencing, it's wreaking havoc on a lot of related processes like light perception. So the books are on very bright paper with very bold print, so it's got high visual contrast. They, of course, have working memory problems. So processing a lot of information at once is very difficult, hence the graphic layout, spacious graphic layout. Simultaneous processing is really difficult. So when you think about when we read a typical article or book, where there's so much simultaneous processing, right? We're getting the gist of the sentence, we're breaking down the sentences into their related parts, we're processing the details of each word, we're connecting the sentence to the sentences before and the paragraphs before, and we're relating it all to our personal experience. That's too much for most people living with dementia to whip through a typical page of text, adult text, but it doesn't usually mean that they cannot read. It just means they need it formatted in a way where they can absorb chunks of information, if you will, just concepts, and take it and process it. If you think about one of the reasons why I just love providing these reading opportunities for people who otherwise would enter a kind of literary abyss, because imagine you're still able to read to some degree, but everything around you, newspapers, magazines, books, are inaccessible. And that to me is just terrible. So, people with dementia often have a hard time, absorbing and processing and understanding and reacting to spoken language. You think about how fast we usually speak, but text is patient. Text isn't going anywhere. They can sit there and linger on it as long as they need. The images are critical. Obviously, it invites emotions, reflections, memories. It's less intimidating than just text. So, that's about it. All this information is at the end of the book. So we did that because when we originally put this kind of title page at the front of the book, the readers would often open the book and just stare at this. And then a staff person or a care partner would have to come and say, "Oh no, Mrs. So-and-so, it starts on this page." And right away, whenever we saw that help was needed, we thought, what can we do so that help isn't needed, so that this person can engineer their own experience with the book and interact with it in their own way without depending on others. So this is a modification where we simply put the text, the title page in the back. Simple modification, but big time to maximizing their independence. Any comments or questions about the books before we go into videos? So the books, so you get a large collection of the books. The subject matters, basically just a quick thing about the subject matter. We have over 50 booklets. You can see them on our website. Some of them, well, here's actually a list of all of them. So some of them you can see are common, sort of like popular books, right? Animals and travel and gardens and things like that. And some of them are more what we call culturally specific, like Jewish Reflections, Japanese American Story. There's a book on the history of gay rights, Pope John Paul II, the Korean War, that kind of stuff. And we found that those books were really important to give people a chance to talk about, or at least for us to honor, some of the most profound experiences that they've had in the last 80, 100 years, either indirectly or directly. So we found that these kind of heavy books, if you will, were written in a careful sort of honoring what happened, good and bad, and at the same time being life affirming and not being perhaps too, upsetting. So they're hard to write, but I think based on all the fields study and research we've done and listening to people and watching people interact with the books, I think they're basically a very positive experience for most people. Okay. If it's okay with everyone, I'd like to show some videos, a couple of short videos of Reading2Connect in action. Is everyone okay with that? Can't hear you. Okay, thanks. I got it in the chat. Okay, so the first video is just a couple of seconds. It's showing a woman who lives in long-term care, and she's just simply on her own. She's on her own. Oh, I see. A lot of people are muted. She lives in long-term care. The staff person was trained in the Reading2Connect methodology. The staff person sort of invited this resident to offered her some books, set her up using Montessori principles with a good environment, lighting, postural support, kept the books within reach of her, and then was able to leave her, which sounds terrible, but it really isn't. The long-term care residents in general, the only times they have kind of interesting, interactive, stimulating experiences is when a staff person or a volunteer or a family member comes to visit. And that's just a shame. Obviously, the staff are completely overworked, but that's really a shame. So if we can find, as a field, age appropriate and ability appropriate materials to provide for residents so they get some time on their own where they're just doing their own thing and nobody's directing them and they're not dependent on anyone. So that's what's happening here.
Our Pope could speak on many topics. Religion, quote, the good news is Jesus is coming back. The bad news is he's really ticked off. Aging.
I remember I was told that when her husband came to visit her and first saw her doing this, he just teared up because he said, this is what she loves, reading and humor and things like that. Any comments about the video? Just speak up, share, go to chat.
I have a quick question.
Of course.
So are the books for people in the earlier stages of dementia?
Yeah, so that's a really
Yeah.
good question. So, if you noticed, I should have said this before, sorry. If you noticed in the books, you have text, you have usually a banner, like a title, and then an image. So the idea is that when somebody is presented with a book, and the nice thing I have to say about a book, it's almost like holding a fork or a spoon. Everybody's familiar with the book. They know what to do with a book. And so when it comes into their hands, you often see kind of a lighting up, even if they have very little language. So, but back to your question. So when you open up the book, generally the individual with the book their eye gaze will go to what's meaningful to them. So if they have a good amount of language, they'll go to the text. If they have minimal, they might go to the banner and then the image, or if they have no language functionally, they'll go maybe right to the picture. And then it becomes sort of holding the book, turning the page, looking at the images. You'll see later in the videos, they can be in a group. They may not be able to participate verbally, but the groups tend to be small. They're resident led. Like I said, you'll see it on the video. And so these books in this program is absolutely not only for people who have language or only for people who can see the text. We actually have a lot of videos on our website of residents reading to other residents who can no longer see who have very low vision. So, because the language that's in these books is much more easily absorbed and digested than if somebody was reading, or if the person with low vision was listening to a typical audiobook. That's too much for them. But it can work out really nicely when you have one resident reading to another. So people with hard of hearing can partake in the books because the reading groups are largely based on the text, and they're seeing the text in front of them. So it's a very multifaceted program for all kinds of abilities. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
And so the last video was one person reading alone. This video is 2. The next one's 3 and 4. So this is 2 gentlemen. I got the feeling that the person who sent me the video, I didn't know the gentleman personally, but I got the feeling they're not very gregarious. And it's in a loud place. There's a lot going on. But there's something about a book that can kind of bring a couple of people together, and they're sort of in their own world. And so it was beautiful to watch. All my videos are very raw. There's nothing scripted about them. They get sent to me, or I quickly pull out my phone. And so they're loud. So you may have to adjust your volume.
Was arrested of this bus. I'm trying to see. I can't tell where it's from.
Gray down was gray here. What color bucket was?
First day the boycott of rain. And about 50,000 by commuters did not use the city bus that day. An empty bus during the boycott. At 26 years old, Dr. King guided and inspired the woodcutters with his words. We came to see it in the long run it is more honorable to walk in decency than to ride in humiliation. We are wrong, and the Supreme Court is wrong. We are wrong, and the Constitution of the United States is wrong. We are wrong, and God Almighty is wrong. And we are not wrong.
So a couple of things about this this video is that it really shows how slowly many of the people we're talking about, our readership, needs to read and needs to process. And that's why, again, there's such a benefit if we can sort of put them in the driver's seat and let them, as I've said, engineer their own experience, because even the most loving, care partner or staff person is probably not going to be able to speak or read slowly enough for what these two gentlemen needed. But if you can have peer-to-peer interaction, it can work really well in that regard. That the gentleman who was doing the reading out loud, he needed to read slowly. That's where he was at. But the other gentleman also probably needed to hear it slowly in order to process it. Any comments or questions?
Just appreciated the coordination of their skills, like anything that two guys might be doing together. The one seems to be the one that has moved into the position of reading, but darn if those pages just wouldn't come apart. And so the other one's, oh, I can do that, and so both of them have the gratification that any two humans would want of that interaction. It puts them side by side, and I don't know, I just love it.
Well,
I actually had a question. You stated that you have a goal of individuals experiencing the text and the pictures independently with no help needed. Do you know if anyone has tried combining the two, the paper books and the video books, at least from the standpoint of the audio part, that they could be looking at the pages and have the headphones on, listening at the same time to just see if that one person responded better? Because obviously each 2-page spread is standalone. So if that person is looking at a picture but hearing someone talking and they're engaged at their speed and it's gratifying, from their body language and all. So that was one thing that I thought, maybe if a person is always having trouble with the pages or I don't know, book upside down or something, that they would still have a participation experience if their headphones are on and they're listening to things continuing on, which is familiar, that there would be, a continued voice.
Yeah,
So
people did that a lot. They would put the headphones on someone and offer someone a book. that could really help when they knew that anxiety was coming for somebody or something, or just enjoying it that way. So you're right. They're feeling the texture of the book and they're hearing it. So the Reading to Connect methodology, if you will, is all about maximizing their independence, but also taking it to the next level and their peer-to-peer interaction. Now, you can do so many things with these books in terms of a librarian leading a group or a staff person or something like that. But we know that people know how to do that, and staff people meaning, and people are really good at that. So we want to emphasize, here's another option. Here's another kind of experience where you have peers helping peers. So like you said, if somebody has the book upside down, a lot of times a peer person could assist, would assist to that. It's very interesting when you bring people together and sort of move away. You supervise from afar because you want to make sure there's no agitation or anxiety or upset or conflict for sure. But people, it's amazing when you see it. In fact, you'll see it in the next video, and I'll show you the next one. Sorry. Let's see. So the next video is three people together. So again, 3 residents. This is in a very noisy, long-term care setting. Here we go.
Well, Yosemite National Park.
Turn the page. Just one. Yeah,
Okay, where are we at? Yosemite?
that's it.
Right there.
Yeah. And she's reading over here.
And I'm reading over here.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I'm reading to you.
Yeah.
And you look at the picture while I'm reading. What you got?
Look at that.
See, look at the picture when I read, okay? All right. When the plane above, it looks like we just dropped down into Yosemite, bucolic Eden-like paradise.
So there's a situation where people have very different abilities and they just worked it out. It's kind of funny when the book stand kind of went flying. When we do our training with employees and so forth, we say, sometimes it's best not to just run in and help, but just kind of see what happens. And people, no matter what stage of life or what they're experiencing in their lives, people fill in for each other. It's really amazing to watch. I'll show you one more video, and this one's 4 people reading together in a book. This is a group. This is Adult Day Center. And so you see they're all sharing. They all have copies of the same book, and that's another thing that's really, really important. If people don't have a copy of the same book, usually it's harder, obviously, for them to attend and to interact and to kind of.
Good turn, Bob.
Powerful.
3. Number 3. Of the Cardinals.
The female northern cardinal is a unique bird. She's one of the few female birds who sings.
Yum yum. We're going to be yum yum.
That bird would be surprised if they hear me read.
Okay, goldfinches are among the strictest vegetarians in the bird.
Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way.
Oh, what a wonderful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day.
He's got a
I've got a beautiful feeling that everything's going Bob's way.
That's the end of that
Let's
one.
just be together, so.
Okay.
The opposite say. Ready? You can say this together. Baba-Chuya, as a baby, Moses was found
Floating on the river Nile.
floating on the river Nile in a boat or in a basket. Moses said to the Pharaoh, let my people go.
People saw it.
I had practiced that, but didn't do it.
And the people survived.
Be getting better and better. Go ahead.
And that's it for the videos. What I like about that one is they're saying their conversation isn't precise. Maybe they're not understanding each other's words perfectly. They're not really, connecting verbally, but they're completely connecting emotionally. They're having a great time. When they sort of lost the words of the song, the staff person didn't jump in. The point is not that they sing the song perfectly or not that they read it perfectly, but that they're moving along and they're having an experience and they're enjoying themselves. And it's organic because we've given them the support of setting up the situation, the book stands, the materials, everything's set up to bolster them up and support them so that you don't need a leader per se as much as usual. And that's about it. Any questions or comments or?
I have a question. I didn't see an author name in any of that. Where's the content from?
So the content is almost all nonfiction. So the people who have helped produce these books are students. In other words, it's been an interdisciplinary effort or project, each book. So for instance, one was a graduate student who wrote one on Latin dance. Another was a couple of us who worked with a veteran from the Korean War and his family, and we put that together. But yeah, so we've met with two corporate copyright attorneys, and they went over with us, what kind of information we can use in a book. Safely.
Sure. Yeah, especially music.
Yeah. I had no idea till we started this. Yeah. One of the things I do is give a workshop on how to create your own age and dementia friendly reading material. And of course, if they're not selling it, then they could do anything. And I envy that.
What libraries are you currently working with?
So there are probably 25 libraries across the nation that have this program. So again, I'll send you this information. So when they get the program, they receive a large collection of books. They get specialized library training. So it's not just kind of a general dementia care training, although that's a good thing to have too. But our training is 2 hours. It's live. I do it every quarter. So for long-term care and care partners and others, it's a recorded training. But you librarians are different. You guys are veering out or wander, into a population in society that most people don't want to deal with. and you're doing this, you're saying who's in our district and how can we serve them? And so I so admire librarians for that. And so you get a live training. So in the training, we like I said, so you get the books, you get book stands, you get reading screens, you get various materials like that. And then you get, and the training for you, for librarians is the content comes from other librarians who have had the program. So it's specific stuff about cataloging. It's how to serve these people, this population in your library, what does it look like when you go outside of your library and into a adult day center or long-term care place.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So it's $22.50 for the 2-hour training. Is that for each person?
No, that's a good, I'm going to put everybody on video again. Nope, it's for the whole program. And
Okay.
the other thing is so we just started something in 2024. Once a library purchases the Reading2Connect program, that library has access to the training forever.
Okay.
So none of this fizzling out business. So if XYZ library purchases the program, they get the books, obviously they get the training. Future hires, volunteers, anybody associated with that library can go on to the next training. We give it quarterly, so it's 4 times a year. Anybody associated with your library can get trained. Does that make sense? Okay. It's lifelong, and there's no subscription fee. We wanted this to be as customer friendly as possible. Like I said, we didn't want things fizzling out.
No, that answers it. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions?
Again, what I heard was we've discovered that our community really has a large population of people who have aging challenges. And I kept thinking, well, that's just going to get larger and larger. And then there's all those family caregivers or professional hired caregivers who are going to be like, oh, we need this. So you're riding the crest of the wave of people desperate for materials.
Yeah. And I love libraries because that's a setting. I mean, they're not silent like they used to be. There's a lot going on in libraries these days, but still a person living with cognitive changes can remember a library. They see all the physical cues. They know a library. And so that's nice. So if they can be welcome there and you actually have something, so many librarians told me, like, we don't know what, we're giving them children's books or big coffee table books, and they know it's not appropriate. And they, yeah, it's hard. It's that age appropriate, but ability appropriate. That's what we need.
Oh, yeah. It makes me think that, community library, they have a calendar, and that there would be a reading with dementia hour every week so that a husband can bring his wife and let her participate alongside someone else and maybe be the more gregarious one, maybe be let's all turn the pages together at the same time, like we saw in your video, and allow that husband to step back for a moment and maybe talk to some other family caregivers, maybe read a book on their own and just,
Right.
enjoy a moment that everybody's just, oh.
Yeah, it can be such a wonderful environment as opposed to like the grocery store or restaurant. And so they're feeling like, so for the library, they're bringing in family care partners, they're bringing in hired care partners, they're allying with, partnering or whatever with, maybe the Alzheimer's Association or, ADCs or something like that. Yeah. So the library can be a rich resource. And that's why I said, I'm just crazy about librarians who are looking, okay, what can we do with, to support these patrons? And I'm going to send you all little summary information. And it was a pleasure. A pleasure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.